Hello, everyone. A warm welcome to the Matchbook Horse Racing podcast, where we've got more Group 1 racing coming your way this weekend. I was very tempted to open that show with a rendition of It's Coming Home, but that would have annoyed the Welshman that is Steve Jones, wouldn't it?
Not at all. Not at all.
You were shouting for England last night, were you, Jonesy?
I thought it was the best performance since you were on that Strongbow advert.
You always know how to move me along very quickly, don't you?
Genuinely thought it was great last night because I was playing cricket in Kent and there was nobody on the road. So more football, the better.
That helps. Incidentally, just prior to this going live, the Matchbook Euro final preview went live. The usual guys involved there, and you can check that out on all the usual channels. So all the tips for Sunday evening's action being put up. But we are the horse racing team, just Jonesy and I this week, to have a discussion about 9 races we've got 3 different tracks involved: Ascot, York and Newmarket on Saturday, with Newmarket dedicated on Friday, and we've got 2 Group 1s we're going to be previewing for you as well. Now, keeping in mind that there's the Euro finals this weekend, we've got the horse racing ongoing, and we've got lots of sports ongoing as far as the podcast goes. And with all the sports that you can bet on with Matchbook, there's 0% commission across all those sports for 30 days. That's for new customers only. So if you open a Matchbook account today, you get 0% commission, or you will pay 0% commission on all sports for 30 days. You need to use the bonus code INSIGHTS. It will mean that whilst you're likely to be getting best odds with an exchange anyway, with the Matchbook exchange, you're all the more likely to do so with 0% commission on all sports for 30 days. You must use the bonus code INSIGHTS. 18 plus. Be gamble what, Steve? Aware. It was on the tip of your tongue. It was on the tip of your tongue, wasn't it? We should work together more. We should work together more often, mate. I think we're a natural together, don't you think?
Absolutely. I'm feeling the pressure. There's no Sammy Turner, there's no Deese, there's no Adele, and there's no Rixie, and I'm feeling the pressure this weekend.
Yeah. Don't forget Don.
And Don. Sorry.
Sorry, Don.
Sorry, Don.
God. Right, let's get stuck into the Friday action, and we're going to start with the Falmouth. And just like on Saturday, we'll start with the July Cup as well. So the Falmouth Stakes, 3:35 at Newmarket for the fillies. I think this is an interesting market, and I've seen Steve's selections, and I'm afraid to say that we agree on this contest. So over a mile, 3:35. I think we're expecting quick ground for this. Alcohol free is 4.5. 5.5 for Snow Lantern, who's got a length and a half to make up with her. Primo Bacio is 7.0. Could be Bassi, I'm not sure. It's only got 1 C. Mother Earth is 7.5. Lady Both up 9.0. And then we're into the double figures. Now, I say Steve and I agree. We found a 15.0 shot in the form of Saffron Beach. I tell you what, I'll just make my quick case first of all, and then you can add all the important points, I'm sure. But I can't understand, Steve, the price about Saffron Beach based upon the fact that her last run over this trip on quick ground was second in the Guineas, right? She then lined up on rain softened ground at Epsom, over a mile and a half, got a different run style because they were trying to get her to see out the trip, and she didn't enjoy it. Fine. She's back over what should be her optimum here. I know Adam Kirby can't do the weights that David Egan rides. And there's also not a huge amount of pace on. So I'm pretty sure she'll attack. And there isn't a bet I'm more excited about, certainly in the place market, than Saffron Beach at 15.0. And if you can be getting, 4.5 in the place market, then happy days. What would you like to add, Mr. Jones?
It is price based. Saffron Beach is just way, way, way overpriced on the fact that she ran badly in the Oaks when I fancied her. But as soon as the rain turned it testing, it wasn't just soft, it was horrible. And it was a really, even watching it, I know Snowfall won very impressively, but it was just a race that you thought, I don't trust any of this, because it was just a complete mess. And Saffron Beach was the personification of, you can just put a line through that run. And then, like you say, her form earlier in the season was excellent when she was second first time up in the Nell Gwyn. and then took a step forward to be second in the Guineas behind Mother Earth when, like you say, she was in a prominent position. And if she's ridden like that over the same distance, I know it's a different course, even though it's Newmarket, it's the July mean, but the two courses, the Rolling Mile and the July course, are both they're quite similar. They're the shape of them, they go down into the dip and then they finish up a hill. So you'd think that Saffron Beach would like the course, and you're taking on horses that at shorter prices who don't have the same level of form, in my opinion. The favourite, Alcohol Free, was just behind him, fifth in the Guineas, and it's since won on very testing ground at Ascot in the Coronation Stakes when she beat Snow Lantern and Mother Earth. Now, I thought Snow Lantern and Mother Earth, the way they were ridden at Ascot, albeit on heavy ground, if they're ridden like that again, I don't think that really will be a benefit because, like you say, there's not all that much pace in there. I like Snow Lantern, and the interesting thing with Snow Lantern is that 8 years ago, her mum, Sky Lantern, was second in this race, and to many people's eyes, should have probably got the race. She's taken all the way across the course by Elusive Kate. So that would be a good story. And I think personally that Snow Lantern wants to go up in distance. I think 10 furlongs would be her distance. I can see why they're having a pop at this, but I think she wants to go up. And there's no way on the back of one bad run where there are endless excuses for Saffron Beach running below par, she should be that price. And I think maybe it's because she's trained by a smaller, maybe, I don't know what the word is, but someone who's not as high profile in Jane Chapel-Hyam. But I'll tell you what, there aren't many better trainers than Jane Chapel-Hyam who have the least amount of horses. She is absolutely top drawer, I think, Jane Chapel-Hyam, and she's got a horse here who's potentially top class, and I think she will get that Group 1 win. I'm way overpriced.
I think just to elaborate on that, if I can, I think had Jane Chapel-Hyam had more ammunition, maybe this filly might not have gone to the Oaks, but there was only one Oaks, and there was only really one horse of the caliber that may have got the trip in her yard, and that's why they went there. But I think people are looking at that run and thinking, actually she's not that good. Look, it didn't work, but I would have more on her in the place market, to be fair. I'm not certain she's good enough to win. I think she could easily have the run of the race, and I think she's a fantastic bet in the place market, but I'll have a bit on the win. Will you split your stakes level across the win and place market, Jonesy?
It's a good point. I'd probably be... I would probably think to have more on to win, because I think she is that much overpriced that you want to get full credit for it. And I'd probably go 70-30 or something like that, because I think she's got, the form book says she has got an excellent chance of winning. And I think she's another one that might end up being best over 10 furlongs. But if she gets on the front end and just keeps rolling, and I don't expect her to actually make the running, but she'll just be behind it and then get to the front, she'll be very hard to peg back with that stamina up the final climb.
Yeah, I agree. I half hope she does go forward, to be honest. There's so little other pace on there. I wouldn't mind if she did. We're in agreement, although I'd probably go 70-30 place over the win market. I could ask you about the other runners, but he's for any listeners on the pod, he's doing the chicken symbol to me. But I don't really care about the other runners because it's selections we want, and Steve and I are putting up Saffron Beach in the Falmouth Stakes. Let's move on, but we're going back to the 225, the Duchess of Cambridge Stakes. This is for the juveniles, and Sandrine is 3.0. Hello You, which I feel like I want to say in that slightly hello you way, which is probably rather annoying for people. 4.0. Oscula is 6.5, 7.5 for Flotus, First Lady of the United States, nothing else. And then we're into the bigger prices, of which Steve is putting one up. And why, Steve?
Well, obviously the horses that you mentioned, it's all about the Albany Stakes, where Sandrine was successful on very testing. Now, that was on the Friday of Royal Ascot, and if you think back, it was nearly called off, so it was desperate ground. And I think the horse who ran earlier in the week at Ascot in the Queen Mary over 5 furlongs. Didn't run all that brilliantly in midfield, but that was because of the drop to 5 furlongs. And then came out last time at Newmarket over today's course and distance, 6 furlongs of the July course, and was pretty unlucky in a listed race. And this is Desert Dreamer, who I was very impressed with earlier in the season. I thought this was a quality animal. And again, one of the trainers you don't expect to see regularly in group races, Stuart Williams. But again, a very, very talented trainer and a very good trainer. And I think he's got a really smart filly on his hands here. And again, it's a little bit price based, because I think the fact that the horses that ran well in the Albany, they're too short in the betting. People have got overexcited. Sandrine has won once on the all-weather at Kempton and then once on very bad ground at Ascot, where she travelled really well and then just about saw it out. I thought she was going to win more impressively than she actually did, but maybe that's probably a false negative, because it was really testing ground and she got the job done very well, beating Hello You and Oscula, who raced alone on the stand side. Whether that was an advantage or a disadvantage, I'm not so sure. I probably think that wasn't either. I thought Oscula had made the running before, so maybe being on the stand side on her own didn't do her any harm and probably didn't give her much of an advantage either. So I thought these were horses to take on, because if you consider that Cachet was only beaten 3 lengths in the Albany, and the form ties in very much with Desert Dreamer from earlier in the season. So there's certainly reasons to think that Desert Dreamer is this sort of level. In the Queen Mary, she just she didn't start very quickly. She was dropped to 5 furlongs, like I say. And I think she's got a lot of pace, but being that far back over the minimum distance when she had proven her stamina when winning over Newmarket's Rowley Mile over 6 furlongs. So that was a decent performance. And like I say, last time she was very unlucky in that listed race. She didn't start particularly brilliantly, but Oisin Murphy, everywhere he went, it seemed to close on him, and she flew through in the finish and was just, funnily enough, beaten by another fast finishing horse in System with Cachet, who I mentioned had run well in the Albany, just behind. Now, if you take that literally, Desert Dreamer hasn't got a lot to find, and she loves fast ground. She clearly handles Newmarket, which I think is a big positive for young horses. These are only 2-year-olds, remember. And for young horses to have handled Newmarket, it's not an easy track. That is one thing for sure. They go downhill and then into that dip and then uphill again. And it wouldn't be the easiest track. So to have that form in the book, and this is one where I am going to go split stakes, win and place, because I think with the 9 runners, you're getting full value. And Desert Dreamer at the prices, I think, is a really good bet, really good bet.
She was nearly where I was going, I've got to say. I had a little bit on her last time, actually, and she ran really well. She certainly appreciated the return to the 6. I can see why they went to 5, but she was so keen the time before that, but it didn't really work out. But I'm pinning it around the Albany. The way I looked at it was, I wouldn't be a big punter in 2-year-old races anyway. But I think there's enough of an angle here against Sandrine to probably have a go at Hello You at 4.0 against Sandrine. Just purely on the track, I think on testing ground at Ascot, the straight course, Sandrine loved it, absolutely relished it. She stayed that trip really well. I think, will go on and get. She's got speed in the blue grade, but I think she'll go on and get further. But I thought Hello You was up there for long enough that a switch to here will just give her the edge. So, and I agree with you on Ascula as well, that I know she raced on her own, but I'm not viewing that as much of a negative because it seemed to be a bit of a stand-side bias for much of the week. So I struggled to see that necessarily as a negative. I thought she was priced about right. I just have Hello You and Sandrine closer in the betting, and therefore it's a bit more than an interest bet because I can make a case on value. But it'll be a small win bet 4.0 Hello You, who I think will appreciate this track much more than Sandrine. But yes, it wouldn't be a hugely confident shout. So Desert Dreamer for Steve, who is 13.0. I didn't mention that. And Hello You at 4.0 for me. Let's move on to the next. This is a handicap, tricky one as well. 1 mile 6 furlong handicap at 3 o'clock. And at the top of the betting, a lot of Royal Ascot form represented here, is Global Storm at 6.5. At 8.0, we've got Arthurian Fable, we've got Amtiaz as well. Half a point bigger is Prince Alex, and then we've got the double figures on side. I'll kick off, Jones, if you don't mind, and just argue that Roginski is probably a play here. For all he's drawn 14, may not be ideal. See where it's only had 3 recent renewals, and Cape Coast last year came out of 10. I don't think that's going to be ideal necessarily, but I think Roginski actually doesn't have a huge amount to find, or as much as the market would have to find with Global Storm. And I like Global Storm. I thought that he came from further back than ideal last time. I backed the horse a couple of starts ago at Newmarket where he's touched this. Well, I thought he'd actually win that day, but he bumped into a good horse in the form of Zabeel Champion, then duly won subsequently back at the Rolly Mile. But I thought Roginski, quick ground is what he wants. Well, that's what the last win came on, so that's a plus. He didn't get that at Haydock. He won't be too far away. I think that's no bad thing. And then at Newcastle last time in the plate, he saw it out, but he got a slightly luckless run, I thought. I'm not saying he would have won, but I think he would have finished a little bit closer. He's back here off the same mark. And I'd quite like to see, I think we'll get it as well, an attacking ride from PJ McDonald, who I think has got a chance from 14 just to come out and get forward and not necessarily make the running, but certainly be on the speed. I thought there was just a bit too much between the top few in the betting and Roginski personally, so I want him on side. It's a win and play shout. What about you, Jonesy?
Yeah, I think you've hit upon something there, because I didn't think there was a lot of pace in this race, and over 14 furlongs at Newmarket, it's not easy to come from off the pace in any race. And when there's a lack of gallop going on, then that makes it even more difficult. And I think in situations like that, I know he broke my heart last time in the Northumberland Plate, but I think Hochfeld is bound to be up there. I mean, he made most of the running at Newcastle. And when I saw Jim Goldie's Nicholas T coming out of the pack, he would never run over 2 miles. And I thought, oh my God. So I still haven't got over it, but I'm still with you, Hochfeld, because I think he's the most likely horse to be up with the pace and just keep galloping. He stays really well. He obviously stayed the 2 miles of the Northumberland Plate on the all-weather, but he's got lots of form on fast ground. He ran very well in the Chester Cup. And I just think if nothing really takes him on, and it could easily be the Mark Johnston horses. He's got 3 runners in there, the Max We Can and Watersme. They could easily control the race, and when that happens, they're very dangerous. And I know people will look at him. He's a 7-year-old now, and he might be more exposed than some of them, but he'll just keep on rolling. And I think that's exactly what you want in this sort of race. So it is very much the way the race will be run, but Hochfeld comes in decent form. The other one I sort of half interested in, if he's a massive price, I would probably throw a few quid win in place. It's Hyana, who hasn't won for a good while, but has got form on very soft, a very quick ground, so it should like conditions, and is only £1 higher than his last win, albeit it was a while ago. But he's not had many chances over 1 mile and 6, and although at Ascot he was a fair way behind the likes of Amtiaz in the Copper Horse Stakes, he had a poor draw that day and couldn't get in. So sometimes when you have a wide draw and you get in, you can overcome it, but he didn't, and he was caught wide. So I would forget that. So I would have a little bit on Hyanna, but Hochfeld, I think, will have the race run to suit, and he'll be out in front, and they'll have to get past him, and there's a fair chance they won't.
Shall I put? Do you want me to put both of them down then? When we go on to the insights, when we put up your shouts, I'm actually going to have another one as well. But Hyanna as well, yes.
Brackets. Can we use it? We're allowed to use brackets.
No brackets.
Just put them in there.
I might put brackets. He's a she.
Oh no.
Anna.
I do apologise.
Ends in an A. Are you holding a cricket ball, Steve?
Oh, it's my stress ball, isn't it? I always do.
It's a bit hard for a stress ball, isn't it?
Just makes me feel comfortable.
That's good. Yes.
It's like a comfort blanket.
A cricket ball.
I spend all day shining it, but we'll leave it at that.
I bet, yeah. The other one I wanted to put up again, slightly smaller stakes. Excuse me. Is Lost With You, who that global. Look at the last two runs before the disappointment at Ascot. Nottingham bumped into Hochfeld, who's run really well subsequently, and then Newmarket bumped into Global Storm, who ran really well at Ascot last time. And then, ultimately, I don't think stayed in the Ascot Stakes, and I think it's just been a bit discounted there. Mark Crean on board claiming his 3. That's well worth it. I hope they don't get too far back. He was ridden patient at Newmarket, not certain Nottingham. So for reasons we've discussed, hope he's on the speed. I thought he was overpriced as well, Lost With You and Rajinsky. So I'm going to add that as well. No brackets. We will do best bets at the end of the show. So let's move on to Saturday and the July Cup. My goodness, for me, this is the best July Cup in, I think, the last decade. Just the amount of runners and the different ages coming together. We've got last year's winner as well. I think it's an absolute monster race. Steve, you can kick us off. Let me take you through the top of the market. Oxted is the horse at the top of the market, looking to be the first horse since the 50s to win back-to-back renewals, is 5.5. Starman is also 5.5. Dragon Symbol 6.0, 8.5 for Rohan, Creative Force 10.0, bigger prices the rest. Lead us off with if you think there's any preference where you want to be drawn, and then with your selection, Steve.
Well, in my opinion, you always want to be drawn where the pace is, but I imagine that most July Cups, they sort of come down the middle, don't they? So I wouldn't get too hung up about where you are drawn. It might work out differently, but I think guessing the draw is hard enough when they're likely to split, and Ascot is the stereotypical one, whether you want to be stance or far side. But I wouldn't think that the draw is going to have a major impact on this. I agree with you totally. I think this is a fantastic race. The 6 furlong sprinting division has not been vintage for a number of years, but you look at the horses in here, the potential is everywhere, and it's not just the 3-year-olds who incidentally have won I think 4 out of the last 6 July Cups. Even last year's winner Oxted, it's a 5-year-old, but he's certainly not exposed. And then you've got Starman, 4-year-old Art Power, who's a very good sprinter with more potential to be better, and Glen Shield, who has already won Group 1 sprint. So this race has everything, and I would hope that this is the springboard to some really good races later on in the season, like at Haydock and Ascot on Champions Day. But this is a cracker to start us off. And the horse I like is Dragon Symbol, who of course lost the race in the stewards' room at Ascot on very heavy ground, which I didn't think particularly suits Dragon Symbol. He did roll around a bit, and that's why he lost the race. He drifted right over to the middle of the track where he took the American horse Campanelle, and the stewards had a pretty straightforward task there, I'm afraid, for supporters of Dragon Symbol. But there's no doubt in my mind that Dragon Symbol is a horse of immense potential as a sprinter, and it previously lost out on heavy ground at Haydock in the Sandy Lane to Rohan, who's also in the field. But the thing with Rohan, I think Rohan is a very interesting horse, because he's come a long way in a short space of time. it was rated 55 last December when he started this winning run, and he's proved that he is a top draw sprinter by bolting up in the Wokingham. And although it was only a neck, the way he won it coming through from the rear was very impressive. But that is my problem with Rohan. His run style is not ideally suited to Newmarket. It's not easy to come from off the pace, even in this. And you're if you go through the recent winners of this race, then most of them are either on the pace or in behind the pace. Certainly, you don't want to be worse than midfield, and Rohan has to be, or seemingly is best when dropped right out. So Dragon Symbol is one that I think will just be behind the speed. That's the way that he has been ridden in recent starts, and he's only had one run on turf on fast ground at Hamilton when he beat significantly, who we saw came out and won a handicap at Royal Ascot. So the form there, I think, is pretty good. And this is a horse getting better. And I just think in what is a really open race, that Dragon Symbol he's got a lot going for him. Where he'll be positioned, he's the right age. His 3-year-olds have got a great record in it, and I'm looking forward to it. But it's hard to have a rock solid, strong opinion, not because I don't fancy the horse, but because you look at the opposition and there are dangers everywhere.
You've said a lot, but Peter, hi Peter. Peter's punt says Glen Shield for me, and you know, look, I've got so many on the shortlist here. It has to come down to a price selection. Oxted, I think this is a better renewal than last year. For all, I think he should be clear favourite for the race. I think he's drawn well, Steve, because there is a lot of pace up high, which is far side. You know, if you Oxted 16, he won't be too far away, and then you've got Glen Shield 14, Art Power 17, Supremacy may well crack on with it out of 19. Emiratiana 15. That is the bulk of the pace. So I think if I'm going to make a decision and have to rule horses out, I'm going to be looking at higher numbers. I totally agree on Rohan and his run style, but he is drawn 18, and I could, 9.5 was tempting me, and I could see him getting involved. But I've got a silly one, and I know he's not drawn that high, but he is double figures. But I want to see Steve's face. Let me get a vision when I say this horse's name. Right, here we go. Glorious Journey.
Who?
He's looking inquisitive. He's looking... So, right. He's a course and distance winner. Now, I know that came... I don't even know when it was or what. I think it was on his debut. It was on his debut. Course and distance winner. Quick ground... He proved himself on last time. I always thought he wanted a bit of cut, but he proved himself when winning a couple of weeks ago, the Criterion. Charlie Appleby is good with dropping these 7 furlongs horses down to six furlongs. He's got a decent record of doing it. Had a horse called Dubai recently who ran over 7. He ran up 1 over a mile, dropped him down to 6, and that's when he came into his own. Glorious Journey ran in this race a few years ago. That was off the back of finishing second to Lamato. He was second his side, and that was having been a touch slowly away as well. He won't get too far back, and I like the fact that they're bringing him back here. Look, he's a massive price. You know, to be honest, as far as the match fit market goes, he could be huge. He could be 3 figures on the exchange. So I think he's well worth playing. Small win, chunkier place. I thought he was definitely overpriced. If I was going to side with one at the top of the market, it would probably be Rohan, but I can't quite make myself do it. I'm also going to have a little bit on, and again, she's drawn more in the middle, but she's drawn 10. Just on form, Miss Amulet, who was taken out because of the ground at Ascot. You know, she was second to alcohol free a couple of starts ago in the Cheveley Park, and then she went on out at Keeneland and finished just behind Mother Earth and ahead of Campanelle. Last time it didn't work out. It was a rushed reappearance on heavy ground at the Curragh in the Guineas. I'm I thought she's a similar sort of price to Glorious Journey. I'm going to play those two win and place because I can't put a line through anything at the top of the market. And that's how I'm playing it. I'm probably completely insane, but that's how I want to play it. And in single figures, I wanted to take a view that you're going to want to be middle to far side. Done. Do you want to add anything, Steve?
No, I like your style, going big, having a swing. But personally, I would be disappointed if a horse with that sort of form won this, because I think this bunch of 6 furlong sprinters could be vintage, and I'm hoping we all want to see champions, don't we? We all want to see those like Sea Pigeon Monksfield, those Quarto Star Denmans, and those See the Stars, and I don't know.
Yeah.
Giants Causeway and Calanese would probably be
the ones that
well done. Take each other on constantly and at a really top level. So if it would disappoint me if that, but betting's not about that. It's about finding the winner, and if one of those wins at a big price, then hats off.
Yeah. I'm not. Yeah, it's just I can't split those at the top of the betting. I can't. So I've got to have something at a bigger price, and I'll be playing those mainly in the place market, but also in the win market. There we go. Something probably a short price single figure drawn horse will probably win it. There we go. I look like a fool again. Right, let's move on. We're going back to the Summer Mile. This is the 3 o'clock at Ascot. I haven't got the price up in front of me yet, Steve. So you can take us away, and then I'll give you the prices. Who do you like and why?
The horse I like is Top Rank, and I'm really keen on this one. Well, I thought that was a decent performance last time at Windsor in the Midsummer Stakes when he was taking on Century Dream, but he was giving Century Dream £5. And although Century Dream, who is a front runner, was taken on by Brentford Hope, I thought the place to be was up front, and Century Dream just got rolling. And they're not easy to peg back when they do that at Windsor. And Top Rank was staying on really well at the line. I know he's beaten a length and a half, but like I say, he's got the weight turnaround. And just when he was starting to get going, Top Rank, he was lent on by another horse who seemed to just upset him for a little while, and that did put him on the back foot a bit. He didn't get into a rhythm. And then you look at his form before that, Top Rank, he took on Palace Pier twice, once in the Queen Anne at Royal Ascot and once in the Lockinge at Newbury. He was not disgraced on either occasion, and before that he made a winning appearance in the Doncaster Mile at the Lincoln meeting, and last year he did plenty of winning. So I think he's got a lot in his favour today. I think the track at Ascot will suit him a lot better than Windsor. He should get a nice lead. Century Dream's sure to go a nice pace, and I think the ground, which it's hard to get at the moment how much rain Ascot will get, but we're starting off on the soft side, so I was sort of working just on the easy side of good, and if it was a bit softer, Top Rank wouldn't bother him either. So I think he's a very solid bet.
I agree on the ground. That's exactly what I'm working on as well, I think, and probably similar to York as well when we get there too. Top Rank for you, who is 6.0, 5.5 for Sabuska, 6.0 for Tilsit, Century Dream 7.0. Now here I would have a view on the top of the market, which is I want to be against Sabuska. His course win came on the straight track. He's the type of horse I just want to take on the round course at Ascot, because I don't think he will have it set up quite how he wants, for all he probably has the best form coming into it. I like a horse called Al Sahel for Charlie Appleby. Interesting that Pat Dobbs rides. This horse ran twice out at Maidan, and Pat Dobbs, of course, was riding out there at the time. He's really disappointing out there. He seemed to lose his action last time. In fact, did anything come to light? He was just he was keen, so disappointing. Before that, he ran okay in the race won by Lord Glitters. Is the Jebel Hatter, notoriously one of the weakest Group 1s around, but he was third that day. Before that, his performance at Newmarket, my friend and colleague Angus McNay assures me that as far as sectional timing analysis goes, that was blistering. That turn of foot was electric. Now, I like the fact that he's back over a mile. I think this is the right race for him. He handles cut, so easy side a good perfect. That's what it was at Newmarket when he won, and he's been gelded. Charlie Appy ran a horse called Yabir today, who was really disappointing. He was gelded. He went and won easily. And maybe this will be the making of the horse. He's definitely worth chancing at 11-1 because he could easily, and I mean easily, be the best horse in this field by a country mile based upon that Newmarket performance. But this is make or break time. He needs to prove it. So 11.0, win and place, Al Sahel. And I'd actually have more on here in the win market because he could be that good that, if he's disappointing and he blows out, fair enough. But it wouldn't surprise me if he went and won this by a couple of lengths. There we go. Let's move on. I can't remember where we're going next. We're going to the Superlative Stakes. Of course we are. This is back at Newmarket. Back to the 2-year-olds here, and a good-looking contest as well, decent-looking renewal. Now you're on your own because this is one that I'm sitting out, Steve. I said that 2-year-old races by and large aren't my bag. I found this tricky. So who do you like and why?
Well, I was working for Racing TV at a Sandown meeting on a Friday a few weeks ago, or last month I think it was, and there was a horse called Native Trail won that day, and I was really impressed with him at every point. When he walked into the parade ring, he just looked fantastic. He really looked a quality horse, and this was only a maiden. It was his debut. He's really well bred. He's got an interesting pedigree. There's a lot of speed in there, but he did start over 7 furlongs, so I wouldn't think that he would be going much further at any point in his life. In fact, he could end up being a sprinter. But he was so impressive, and he was backed as though they were expecting this. I mean, he's Charlie Appleby Godolphin horse, so he'd clearly been doing the right things at home. The form wasn't fantastic. It was not the form that draws me to him. It was the performance. He won by 4 lengths, and he just looked really top draw. And usually in these sort of races, I think it's difficult for a horse to go straight from a maiden to a group race. A 2-year-old, but it's interesting in the Superlative Stakes that I think it's the last 4 of the last 5 have been debut maiden winners going straight to this race, and they've been successful. And the thing that gives me confidence with Native Trail, he was professional the whole way through, so he clearly is fairly straightforward. I would hope. He certainly showed that at Sandown, and I think this is a really nice horse. And there's a lot of horses that like to or have made the running. It's hard to tell when they've only run a couple of times, but Tom Dascombe's pair, Mott the Messer and Mr. McCann, both went forward. And Charlie Appleby's got another run in a Private Signal who went forward. So I think Native Trail will get a nice lead into the race, and I think his class will certainly come to the fore. So I'm with Native Trail. The class form is towards the top of the market. The likes of Great Max, who was 3rd in the Chesham Stakes as well, over this sort of distance. But he's another one that I'm just not convinced that the strength of that race. He was beaten 4 lengths, and the Chesham can be a little bit not lacking quality, but the depth isn't there. And Dabab, who most people would be drawn to because he looked unlucky in the Coventry Ascot, it's got to go up in distance, which I shouldn't think will be a massive problem for him, but it's another slight unknown. And I think time will tell that Native Trail is every bit as good as those winners at Royal Ascot.
He's 5.5. I remember he was backed as if defeat was out of the question on his debut last time. Absolutely hammered. Native Trail for Charlie Appleby. And again, I'd be lying. I'd just be finding a bet for the sake of it, and I'm sitting it out. The 335 is from Ascot. It's a 5 furlong handicap. I love playing this straight course at Ascot. Not that this is necessarily very easy. I thought the pace in the race, I wanted to sort of find a side, although, I say only 20 runners here, but in comparison to the Royal Meeting where you've got an extra 10 to contest with, and the stalls are stand side, so it maybe that will benefit higher numbers. I think that's worth paying attention to, that you're not going to get them to use the far rail. I wouldn't have thought. What I did think was that most of the pace was probably actually middle to far side. I'm going to have a go at Blue de Vega, who I managed to find for his course and distance success. That came, I think that was a Class 2 that came in. It was a couple of years ago. And subsequent to that, he's run lots. He blows hot and cold. It was in 2018, actually. It was a Class 2, but it was over 5 furlongs on quick ground. Now, he was held up that day, and he always looked as though he wanted to be held up. And then recently, he's been on the speed. I sort of hope they go back to just sitting off them. I think that suits this track, and that's why this track suits him. Reese Clutterbuck has ridden him before. Actually, when he ran well at Goodwood in the race won by Desert Safari, when he was a little bit short of room, they were on the stand side rail that day, and then he kept on well. But this track just plays to his strengths much more. And if you look at his course form over the 5 furlongs, I think he's run five times over this course and distance, and he has been first or second on 3 of those occasions. One of those runs came on soft ground, so I'm happy to suggest that was never going to suit. And the other one was actually, he ran in this race a couple of years ago, and he kept on, but he was just never really involved. That was when Tis Marvellous won it. But I think there's enough to say at 17.0, he's worth a win and place bet, because this is his bag, really. Some pace to chase on what's hopefully drying ground. I hope it isn't officially soft, because I don't think that will suit necessarily. With Reese Clutterbuck taking off 5, he's fairly treated off 94. He's easing down the weights, where he's gone back up 1 off the back of the run last time. But I thought he was more appealing than most at the prices. Wouldn't be massive stakes. Steve.
Yeah, I didn't realise it, because it's just the 2 of us. I didn't realise we were allowed to sit out races, because I thought this was absolutely as impossible as it gets.
You listen. You can don't find a bet for the sake of it. You can sit it out if you want. You're fine.
But one I do like.
You don't want it to win. If you're going to put one up, you know who is it? Because it might be an interesting price.
I shouldn't think so. It's Boundless Power.
Okay, Boundless Power. Well, let me give you the prices. Significantly is the horse that heads the betting at 6.5. Hurricane Ivor is 11.0. Boundless Power is. Hold up. Are you on? Hang on. Why can't I find Boundless Power, Steve? There we go. 12.0 Boundless Power. You happy enough with that?
Yeah. Look, I'm talking very small stakes, but this horse has done exceptionally well since joining Mick Appleby from Ireland, winning twice from 4 starts and been runner-up in the other 2. Those have both been at Nottingham on soft ground in small field races. So we're going to certainly significantly different track, significantly different field size. From 5 to 20 is a little bit different. But the thing
significantly is the favourite, and you've said significantly twice.
Twice.
Is that a coincidence?
But significantly is significant, because I think there's not a huge amount of pace in there, and significantly is one of them. And the other one is Danzino's sure to be up there somewhere, and that's another horse trained by Mick Appleby. They're both down the middle. Boundless Power's on the stand side, but I think if this sets up, if they do go a decent gallop, which I'm not convinced totally that they will, but he obviously can quicken off a reasonable place or an ordinary place in small fields. So if he can do that, he's totally unexposed. He likes soft ground, and I'm not saying it's going to be deep, but if they did get rain, he can cope with it. So he would be my stab, but it would be small stakes stab.
Fair enough. Yeah, I agree with you on that, to be fair. I think it's a tough race, but Boundless Power 11.0 and I'm 17.0 about Blue de Vega. We move on to an easier handicap to solve, he says. The 350 is the feature handicap, officially the weekend, and you've got Amethyst at 7.0. 7.0 the field. Perotto is the same price. Fundamental 10.0. Jumeirah Bay and Motokyle 11.0. Motokyle last year's winner. Then we're into the fairly big prices. Again, any draw thoughts, Steve? And who do you like and why?
I'm going for a big one this time, and it's what you boys watching the football were probably on last night. On a Session. And I think this is, again, I don't think there's a lot of pace in this race. I know it's the Bunbury Cup, and I know there's huge amounts of runners spread across the track, 7 furlongs at Newmarket, but I didn't see that there was a huge amount of pace. And On a Session, if you go back to his run at Thirsk in the Thirsk Hunt Cup, that was over a mile, and I thought that was a really good performance, because this was he's joined David Barron from Ireland, and this was only his second run, I think, for David Barron, having run once on the all-weather back in March. And the Thirsk Hunt Cup is often a really good race, and I think this year, again, it was. Storting won it coming from midfield, and Nugget and Astro King were the placed horses, or the other horses in front of On a Session. Now, Nugget had previously won the Spring Cup at Newbury, another big competitive mile handicap. Astro King was pretty unlucky to win his side quite convincingly in the Royal Hunt Cup at Royal Ascot, and be beaten by the horse on the far side, the Godolphin horse. So I think the form is very solid. Now, On a Session that day, over a mile, got to the lead. He was going as well as anything, 3 furlongs out, and I think the trip might just have stretched him. I know it was round a bend, but I think 7 furlongs on the straight course at Newmarket, where hopefully he'll be able to get a prominent position. I think this is a really interesting bet, because last time at Newmarket, he sweated up before, and he must have got very worked up. Now they're putting a hood on him for the first time. Now, if that helps him through the preliminaries, and he doesn't get too worked up beforehand, because again, he travelled really well, and it was just the fact that he got a bit warm and a bit worked up, and that was behind Amethyst. Now he's £6 better off with Amethyst, and I know it's hard to equate a horse that's finished 7th with one that's won, but he was only beaten under 3 lengths, and before that at Epsom he had the widest draw in the field. So, and he still ran really well from the rear when he had to be dropped out, because he had such a wide draw. So hopefully, with the hood on making a difference, the fact that I'm hoping that he'll get a prominent-ish pitch. I don't expect him to make the running by all means, but just in behind the leaders or the front of the midfield lot, that should be ideal. Ray Dawson takes £3 off him, and David Barron, who had won this race in the past with a horse called Above the Rest. I think it was 4 or 5 years ago. So he knows what type of horse you need to win out. I mean, David Barron knows a lot of things, doesn't he? Because he's been around, an exceptional trainer for a long time. And I think he's got a horse here who's very interesting at a big price. And I'm hoping you're going to say to me it's 30.4.0 or something.
It's 34.0 or something. There you go.
51.0.
Yeah, I think you'll get a bit. That's the sort of horse that as the we're 48 hours out, as the matchbook market unfurls, you might just get even bigger, and depending on where he's been put up in, of course, in the paper, etc. If that has been the case, one thing we definitely agree. On a Session was on my shortlist. So I have 4 horses, Steve, that want to be on the speed, and my worry with him was the hood going on, so I sort of had to rule him out on that basis. But I do think you are not going to want to get too far. But I think my angle in is to play horses that want to be on the speed, because I couldn't find a lot of pace on. 2 horses that I'm going to back are Shine So Bright at 19.0, who is well capable of winning off a mark of 101, and I think will not be too far away. Quick Ground is absolutely fine, and I thought was interesting dropping back into a handicap. Last start in the handicap was 2nd, and prior to that was a winner. And the other horse is National League, who has been slowly away on his last 2 starts. Now that is slightly a worry, but he still hit the front at York last time before getting headed. I quite like the fact he's drawn 20, and I really think Richard Fye's got a great record in this race, and I can just see Joe Fanning just going out, hitting that rail, and if not leading, sitting just off it. So I thought that was the way to play the race. National League at 17.0 and Shine So Bright at 19.0, and then you've got one either side for your money as well, because I'm not sure where you want to be drawn necessarily. Did you want to come back in with something, Steve?
Yeah, I just had a question for everybody. Shine So Bright, who his last win was nearly 2 years ago at the York Ebor Festival. Who did he beat? There's no prize, sadly.
Is that a question? Is that a question for me?
Everybody, and you're included in everybody.
Well, I've just looked it up and I've cheated, but that is good form.
Well, that's the problem. Shine So Bright sucked me in so many times for beating Lawrence, who we knew was a fantastic mare.
Yeah.
But since then, there's been no Lawrence and there's been no wins for Shine So Bright.
Now is not the time to give up, Steve.
Correct. Keep that memory strong.
4:05 at York. We move on to I tell you what, I've picked some tough old races, haven't I? The John Smith's Cup. I don't see the worth in going through the prices, because I might as well just give the prices of those that we put up. Hey, your mate Nicholas T's lining up here, Steve.
Very tempted. Very tempted. If it was 1.5 miles, I'd be very tempted. But this is Jim Goldie all over. He gets horses that you think you rule out immediately for the distance.
Glenn. Did it with Yukon Glen?
Exactly. But the distance, he seemed... I remember when Nicholas T won the Northumberland Plate, someone said Jim Goldie would get Batage to win the Gold Cup at Royal Ascot.
I would. Who do you like, Steve?
I think this is a really difficult race again. I'm not giving anything. The one I like, Adele's not here because Paul Mulrennan, Adele's husband, is riding not for Jim Goldie, but Surrey Pride for Joe Tuitt, who, again, is another underrated trainer, in my opinion. And the thing with Joe Tuitt is he, in my opinion, is very good at laying a horse out for a specific race. And I think that's just what he's done with Surrey Pride, because this horse won over at York over this course and distance in May. I presume that must have been the Dante meeting, and it's not been seen since. And I think they've protected that handicap mark because it's only gone up £6. And when you look at the form, it's pretty good. Macram, who won last week at Sandown, was it the Eclipse card? Won somewhere last week. Irish Admiral, who's lost his way a little bit, but he's another horse of potential. Pivone, who won this race a couple of 3 years ago. And I think Surrey Pride. It's another track, York, especially when there's a little bit of juice in the ground. I want to have horses with course form. So that's another box ticks for Surrey Pride. He's very wide, but I don't think that is going to put me off because... unlike the Bunbury Cup, I think there is a lot of pace in this, and I think they will go hard, and I think he'll be able to slot in, and I think he'll pick up the pieces late on, and I think he's got a decent shot. I think there's a lot in his favour, Surrey Pride, so I'm with him.
I will agree on, I don't mind a bit of course form, particularly when it's like this. You're with Surrey Pride. The two things I'm going to do, I want a price about something, which you're going to get really here anyway. But, a fair price. Favourites just don't tend to win this. And also, like the point you made, don't worry about being too wide because Green Destiny out of 17 in 2011, King's Warrior 19, Farage 22, Danchai 16, Educate 40. It's no bad thing to be wide necessarily. Two horses I'm going to back are Hartswood, who's got really good course form, another one for Richard Fahey. Got a penalty for the success last time. I don't know if he's been reassessed actually, but got a penalty for the win last time. Has been reassessed, and in fact, he didn't go up much for last time. But I like the fact that he's got such good course form, and weirdly, he probably didn't stay the 10 at Redcar. He didn't look like he did, but he's always looked like he has done over a mile here. Though he wanted further, and that was the case at the Dante meeting over a mile. So I'm willing to chance Hartswood based upon the course form. Steve's talked about that. And the other one I want on side is Fisherable, who's drawn 18. And was well behind Surrey Pride a couple of starts ago, but it's got course form behind Maronier at the back end of last year on soft, and was a winner at Ripon last time. I don't mind the fact that I think David Allen will probably try and get him over and get him handy. I just wonder if he's that 17.0 based upon the wide draw. I know this is tougher than last time, but I thought that, again, the wide draw maybe no bad things, got course form. I thought he had a better chance than he was given credit for, perhaps. Small stakes, win and place, Fishable and Hartswood. And I take it your win and place, Steve.
Depending what we can get.
15. He's 15.0 at the moment, drawn 24.
Ooh. Yeah, I think that's bigger than I was expecting for Surrey Pride.
Bigger than Steve was expecting. Good news. Don't be childish, Steve. We're done, aren't we? We're done. Best bets. Who is Steve Jones's best? Is what we all want to know. We don't want to know who's going to win the Euros. We want to know what Steve Jones's best horse racing bet is this weekend.
I've caught your chicken flu, because all these great handicaps like the Bunbury Cup, the John Smith Cup, when we're putting up massive priced horses, I'm going to go for Top Rank at Ascot.
Okay, fine. Top Rank
mile.
In the Summer Mile. And I am going to go Friday, Falmouth Stakes, Jane Chapel Hyam, Saffron Beach. And the best bet is in the place market. That's the main chunk of my bet. She's 15.0, but in the place market, Saffron Beach for me is a great bet. So she is my weekend best bet. Steve, thank you very much. What's going to happen on Sunday night? What's the score going to be?
I think England are looking dominant, but Pakistan are quite often a dangerous side when they've been. I'm hoping now that I know England are playing Pakistan at the moment. I don't even know if they're playing Sunday. So that was a poor gag, really.
They're playing on Saturday. Go on.
Oh,
actually, it doesn't matter what, Steve, because we have our very own Matchbook Euros Finals podcast out there at the moment with the regular team, and that is where you can go for what's going to happen on Sunday night. We told you what's going to happen in the horse racing, and you can go to Insights on Friday and Saturday to get all the selections from Steve and I, including our best bets. So your cheat sheet, if you like. But if you're listening to this, then thank you very much for listening or watching the podcast this weekend. We'll be back again next week, but from Steve and I, bye-bye.